Welcome back to the Tutorium in Intensive English. I'm Katie, and today we are going to be talking about intonation in English. Now, this pronunciation lesson is going to span 2 modules. So this time we're just going to get into the basics, and in our next module, we'll just dig a little bit deeper into this puzzle of intonation in English. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off with the meaning of intonation. What does intonation mean? And sometimes I may refer to intonation as tone. So if I do that, just know I'm talking about intonation. Now, tone or intonation can be thought of as the melody of language. We've talked a lot about how language is like music, and we've connected syllables to the beat and also stressed syllables and unstressed syllables, creating the rhythm of English. And intonation is our melody over those beats, over that rhythm. So it's kind of the melody playing over the top. And we can think of tone as our pitch patterns. So our pitch is going up and going down, and all of this is working together with stress and intonation to create our rhythm of English. Now, these changes in pitch can affect our meaning in English. Okay, so let's take a moment just to talk about how intonation and meaning connect in English. Now, it's a little bit different from some languages. In English, pitch is not going to change the meaning of a single word. So if I change the pitch that I say a word, it will not make that word into a different word. Okay, it won't mean something different. Now, this isn't true for all languages. Some languages, if you change the pitch that you use to say a word, it will change the definition of that word. So we don't have to worry about that in English, but we can definitely alter our meaning, definitely change the emotion that we are using behind our words, and tone and intonation really helps us do that. So if I say something, if I alter my tone, it can change the emotions behind what I'm saying, behind my words, and that can change my intentions. Okay, so you kind of have to listen to tone to kind of understand maybe a person's intentions behind their words. And rules with tone are very flexible. Everything I'm telling you today are general guidelines, but we manipulate and change tone a lot depending on, what our intended meaning is. And also just a quick note about making mistakes. I think using tone is great. It's better to use tone even if you make some mistakes with it than to not use it enough and be lacking in tone. Because if we don't have enough pitch change in our words, we can sound kind of flat. So it's better to play around and even make some mistakes. That's okay. Okay, so let's talk about the major patterns that we're going to look at today. We are going to look at 2 types of final tone. And if you're not quite sure what I mean by that, just hold on, we'll get to that. Final tones, we're going to look at a rising, falling pattern, which is used in statements and some questions, and a rising final tone, which is used when we ask questions in English. We're also going to look at a non-final, 2 non-final tones, rising, falling, and continuous rise. And just an important thing to point out at this point is pitch changes occur throughout our speaking. So not just in these points that we're going to look at today, like at the ends of things and at the, specific points of our sentences. Our pitch is changing, our tone and pitch is changing a lot throughout, not just at the ends of phrases, clauses, and sentences. Just want you to be aware of that. Okay, so let's look at these final tones. Our first final tone that we're going to look at today is the rising falling tone. And we call it rising falling because these are happening at the end of a sentence, okay? And so at the end of a sentence, our tone and our pitch is first going to rise and then fall. Okay, so there's going to be a bit of a rise and then a fall. And the fall will be strong. It will be a final, strong falling tone because that strong final tone signals to my listener that I'm finished speaking or my turn is finished. If I'm having a conversation, that can signal to the people I'm having a conversation with, oh, I'm going to get in there and say something because she just used a final tone. She's signaling to me that her turn is finished or she's done talking. Okay, so here's an example of a final falling tone, rise fall tone, sorry. I'm hungry. Okay, so we have this simple statement, I'm hungry. If we look at this and we analyze its stress a little bit, hungry is of course the last, and well, it's the really only content word that we're dealing with that we're going to stress in this sentence. Hungry. So we have that first syllable in hungry is stressed. Now, we're going to have a little bit more of a bump, a bit more of a rise here because the last syllable of our sentence is not stressed. So we got to get over that stressed syllable. It's kind of like we have to go over a little hill and then we're going to drop and do our final drop. So this looks like this. Let's look at our pattern here. I'm hungry. Can I go over? Notice my pitch, because that stressed syllable, my pitch increases, right? I'm hungry. And I go over hungry. And then I drop. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Sometimes it helps to visualize with your hands. This hand is kind of like the sentence, and this hand is like the pitch. I'm hungry. You can feel it go down. You can do that with me if you want. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So that's our final rise fall tone. Okay. Let's look at our final rising tone. Now, this is a final, the tone rises over the stressed syllable and then it keeps rising. Instead of falling, it rises at the end. So we might still have a little bump depending on where that last stressed syllable is, but it's going to be a lot less pronounced than the falling tone because our tone is going to then rise. So it's not going to be as dramatic of a and then we want to make sure that there's a strong rise because this is a final tone. So in this case, I'm rising at the end, which is signaling I'm done talking. And in this case, I'm probably waiting for you to answer a question that I've just asked. Okay, so let's look at an example. I just took that last sentence and I made it into a question. Are you hungry? You can hopefully already hear my rising tone. We have hungry. I do have a little bit of a hump to get over with hungry. Now, when I do this, if I want to work with my hands to kind of visualize the intonation, when I use a rising tone, I'll turn my hand up. When I use a falling tone, I turn my hand down just to kind of remind my brain which way my voice has to go. So we're going to go up. I'm going to ask this question. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Hungry? Are you hungry? So I still have a pitch increase over the stressed syllable, and then I just keep going. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? All right, so those are our final tones. Let's look at our non-final tones. So our first one is a rising, falling, kind of like our rise, fall final tone, but this rise, fall happens before the end of a sentence. And we use this a lot when we have like a complex sentence, when we have an independent and a dependent clause. We can see in our sample sentence here that we have a dependent clause, when you finish eating lunch, followed by an independent clause, meet me at the library. So just like in writing, when I'm speaking this, I have a comma. I mean, we don't use commas in speaking, but we do kind of pause. So they're there, they're in our brain. And my pitch is gonna do something at this lunch, right? When I get to lunch, I have my two, I kind of look at this sentence in two chunks, okay? When you finish eating lunch, meet me at the library. So I have these two chunks. I gotta locate my final content word, lunch, which is one syllable. So I don't have to do a lot of rising because it's one syllable. I don't have to go over any hills. It's just lunch, lunch. And my final content word, my final content word, which is library. Now, library has a stressed syllable, li, and a secondary stressed syllable, brer, okay? Library, library, library. So this pattern is going to, I gotta go up and down when I get to lunch. When you finish eating lunch, but I don't fall too strongly on lunch, okay? When you finish eating lunch, I'm like, lunch, I'm waiting, there's more. Meet me at the library, and I go down. Okay, so you wanna really fall on that final content word. So I rise, fall a little bit over the first, non-final, lunch, and then I fall. Remember, make sure lunch cannot be a final tone, right? I'm not done. When you finish eating lunch, meet me at the library. When you finish eating lunch, meet me at the library. And then I go all the way down. Okay, so that's our non-final rise, fall. We use that a lot when there's more coming, like in these complex sentences, right? Like because, stuff like that. Now we have continuous rise. Now the best example I can give you of a continuous rise is in a list. Okay, I'm listing things off. I have a long list of things I want to tell you and I'm not finished. Like for example, in our sentence here today, I have a sandwich, an apple, some chips, and a water. It's a pretty good lunch. Now, this list, I'm going to signal that I'm not finished. I'm continuing, continuous rise, by raising my tone a little bit, not as strong as a question, just to signal I'm not done. Today I have a sandwich, an apple, some chips, and a water. A sandwich, an apple, some chips, and a water. Now water, I go down, right? And a water, I go over water. Today I have a sandwich, an apple, some chips, and a water. Okay, so that's our continuous rise. All right, now I just want to emphasize that intonation is not fixed. Okay, if we alter our tone, we alter, that informs our listener of our intentions, right? If I'm annoyed, I'm going to use my tone to help you know that I'm annoyed. If I'm angry, if I'm happy, if I'm sad, tone helps me communicate that to my listener. And that changes my meaning. Okay, so let's look at an example of this. Dave ate my lunch. Okay, well, that's not very nice unless I gave it to Dave. Dave ate my lunch. Now I could just say this very simply, Dave ate my lunch. Yeah, Dave ate my lunch. Dave ate my lunch. Who ate your lunch? Dave ate my lunch. But, and that's falling tone. So I'm using falling tone. Dave ate my lunch. My lunch. Dave ate my lunch. Now this signals certainty, right? If, like with my example of someone asking me a question, what happened to your lunch? Oh, Dave ate my lunch. I'm certain. But I can also alter my tone and my feeling, and this could communicate annoyance as well with a falling tone, right? Dave ate my lunch. Dave ate my lunch. My lunch. Kind of add a little bit more attitude on the Dave ate my lunch. Dave ate my lunch. Seem kind of not too happy about that, right? But what if I said the same thing, but I used rising tone? Dave ate my lunch. Dave ate my lunch. Dave ate my lunch. So this signals uncertainty, kind of like, I can't believe that Dave would do this to me. Like, how could you, Dave? I thought we were friends. Dave ate my lunch. So, I mean, Dave wouldn't eat my lunch. I know Dave, he's a nice guy. He wouldn't eat my lunch unless I gave him permission. But this example illustrates how we can have the exact same sentence, the same words, and tone and pitch, the way we say it can completely change our intended meaning, right? It changes the emotions that are behind those words. So tone is really powerful and really important. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. If you're feeling a little confused about questions in tone, don't worry. Our entire next module is going to deal with how we use tone when we ask questions in English. All right, until then, take care and keep practicing.